So we buy what we want and beg for what we need. Coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense, Logic, and Reason. And as always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So we buy what we want and we beg for what we need is something that's been said of Black Americans, mostly the ghetto blacks, the government-dependent blacks in the hoods and housing projects. Now, blacks will largely agree with this. Pro-blacks and black conservatives alike. This is something that we've always said, all as a group, as a whole, have said. Again, and now I mostly hear that phrase, though, spoken by the pro-blacks and the black leftists. The reason why is because black conservatives, we typically elaborate on this rather than just saying the expression. And I talk about this all the time when I talk about the expression ghetto mentality. Again, if you watch any of my videos, you've heard me talk about the ghetto mentality, and the ghetto mentality is a childlike mentality that puts a heavy emphasis on quick gratification, living for the day, here and now, with very little emphasis on delaying gratification so that you can have better in the future. And again, you don't expect children to delay gratification. In other words, basically, these people put a lot of emphasis on, the people with ghetto mentality, they put a lot of emphasis on guns, with very little emphasis on butter. And of course, that's the phrase that was made popular by William Jennings Bryan of the guns and the butter, where guns being things that appreciate in value, things that you invest in that will appreciate in value and it will be worth more years later. Unfortunately, it requires delayed gratification as opposed to butter, which things that depreciate in value, but it feels good now to buy. Cars, clothes, jewelry, and so on and so forth like that. And this is the problem with people with the ghetto mentality. Their sense of value is placed on butter because it's something that's easily seen, and not on guns, something that's not easily seen. But then again, like I said, you don't expect a child to go out and do what they need. You expect a child to go out and do what they want to do because they're children, and that's what children do. And unfortunately, like I say, this childlike mentality is just so prevalent amongst people with the ghetto mentality. Now, a perfect example of this would be when Katrina hit New Orleans. You got a Category 5 hurricane coming right up the Gulf of Mississippi, right up where the Mississippi River it spills out into the Gulf. And people have said years that will be spelled danger for New Orleans. And I was going to stay until I heard, as long as if it was a Category 3 or less, I would have stayed. Once I heard it reached Category 4 and eventually Category 5, that's when I made up my mind I was going to leave, and I packed my family up and I left. Now, unfortunately, there were a lot of black people who stayed behind, and when the city flooded, they got caught in the flooding, and so many people were saying, well, why didn't these people leave? Why didn't they leave? Why would you stay there? And of course, the pro-blacks and all the apologists, all the leftists kept saying, well, that's because they're poor. And then the response to that was, why are you poor in the land of opportunity? Well, the reason why they're poor and didn't leave and didn't have the resources to leave because they put all of their value in butter. They didn't put any value in the ability to be able to leave. That would be considered guns. Because it's not quick gratification to invest in means of being able to get out of town in case situations. So that right there, Katrina, was a perfect example of black people buying what we want and begging for what we need, because there were plenty of black people out begging, waiting for the government to come save them or for something that they needed. So that expression about blacks, or specifically, as I said, the ghetto blacks, is absolutely true. And this is something that we as black people should be worried about, we should be trying to address. But no, too many of these pro-blacks, they want to push black victimhood. Anyway, like I say, even though black conservatives and pro-blacks on opposite sides of the aisle, we all agree that this is a problem with black people. The problem is that only the black conservatives are the ones who really truly want to address it. Anyway, y'all, like I said, this is my 2 cents on this. And as always, until next time.